Hello. Hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
So now I have searched the ID.
मैं तो इसमें गाना बजा देने का मन कर रहा है, बट मैं पकड़ा जाऊंगा फिर लात, फिर मैं ऐसे लात देगी नहीं। याद आ रहे हैं, याद क्या आ रहे हैं, आगे खाए याद आ रहे, सब याद आ रहे हैं। मैं देखता हूँ।
Yeah, can you see the screen? Hello. Can you see the screen? Students, can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yeah, any doubt in the previous class portion?
No, ma'am.
Shall we continue?
Ma'am, your voice is breaking, ma'am. It's not audible properly.
Yeah, here it's raining, so maybe some. Can you stop? Can we start the class?
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, we in our timetable the class is till 4:15, ma'am. Only till 4:15 it's scheduled for us.
Oh, okay, no issues. We'll have up to 4:15. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you able to see the screen PPT? Shall we start the class?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, in the previous class we started with unit 4 of things, data and data analytics for IoT. In the last class we discussed data and analytics for IoT and introduction to data analytics IoT machine learning. So continuation with that, we are going to continue the following topics. So here in this part 2 we will discuss about big data analytics tools and technologies, edge stream analytics and network analytics, and securing IoT.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
हेलो,
So we need to aggregate the IoT data from the cloud and from the data centers, and we will apply the big data analytics tools to analyze the data and find out the solution. So here for analytics process, we are using the following tools and algorithms. So such algorithms are called NoSQL, Hadoop, and MPP. So those systems are specifically designed to deal with the vast volume, velocity, variety of data generated from the IoT devices. So we know very well from IoT devices, we will get large amount of data each and every second, and the sensors from the IoT devices will collect the data, and that will be sent to the cloud or to the central processing nodes. And the velocity also very high, and they will collect different types of data like audio, video, textual images, textual data, as well as video images. So we need different types of analytic tools to analyze the variety of data. So the streaming edge analytics systems have been developed not to filter and reduce the data generated by IoT devices, but also to allow near real-time response to the IoT devices. So along with the normal analytics tools like Hadoop and MPP, we are using the streaming edge analytics systems. They are helpful for analyzing collecting and analyzing the video streaming. So network analytics does not look at the content of the data. They are used for to discover the patterns and the communication behavior of the network, and they will identify and prevent the security vulnerabilities from network. So we are using the network analytics tools to analyze the network bandwidth and other network related issues. The network analytics comes in many shapes and forms. Each form helps to define true value that comes from the connecting things. So these are the concepts we are going to analyze in this particular part 2. So what are the things we are going to analyze means we are going to discuss about the analytics tools like NoSQL, Hadoop, and MPP. Then we will analyze the edge streaming analytics systems. Then we will analyze the network analytics tools. So if you take the role of machine learning in getting the intelligence from the big data, how we are receiving the intelligence from the big data means using the principles of machine learning and right algorithm and right learning model helps us to get the intelligence from the big data in effective manner. The machine learning operations and two broad subgroups of machine learning are, so to get the intelligence from the big data, we are using the following two methods of learning techniques: local learning and remote learning. So what is local learning means? In this method, we will get the data that is collected and processed locally, either in the sensor itself or in the gateway. So the sensors are collecting the data from the system, and if you do the processing and the learning process in the sensor itself or in the gateway itself, it is called local learning process. So if you do the same learning process, machine learning process in the remote system, that is called remote learning. Say the data is collected and sent to the central processing unit, typically the data center in the specific location or in the cloud where it is processed. So the data will be collected and it will be stored in the central processing unit or in the cloud system. From the cloud system, we will get the data, then we will do the processing, and the intelligence will be given to the system. That is called remote learning. So in machine learning itself, while getting the intelligence from the big data, what we collected from the IoT systems, we can do two kind of learning process: local machine learning process and remote machine learning process. So we have the third type of learning also, that is called inherited learning. So the third type of inherited learning is combination of both local learning and remote learning. So here the term refers to the results of learning that the local unit received from elsewhere. Say for example, processing computer may collect the data from the multiple sensors and gateways, and the ML on this data and send the resulting behavior change request back to the gateway and sensor. So we will collect the data from the IoT devices, and the data will be sent to the gateways and central processing unit, and we may do the intelligence process or big data analytics in the sensor itself or from
Ma'am,
the
your
gateways.
screen
Or
is not visible to us, ma'am.
screen is not visible.
No, ma'am.
I will check. The PPT is not visible to you.
No, ma'am.
I will check. Now, are you able to see now?
No, ma'am.
Now,
No, no, ma'am.
yeah, I will check once again. Shall I? Are you able to see now?
Ma'am, it is showing that you have started screen sharing, but it's not. Yeah, it's visible now.
Yeah. Now the screen is visible.
Ma'am, it's visible now.
Yeah. What we discussed. What is the first topic? Are you able to see the PPT?
Yes,
Are you
ma'am.
able to see the
PPT.
screen?
PPT is visible, ma'am.
Yes. So we started with the unit 4, part 2. So we started what is big data analytics and how it is used in OT. Then the two types of machine learning concepts used to collect the data from the big data. So that is called local learning and remote learning concepts. And the third type is called inherited learning. So it's combination of both local learning and uh, remote learning.
Remote learning.
So in continuation with yeah. So in continuation with that, the machine learning algorithms are used in the four following major domains. So the regardless of the location where the data is processed and common applications of machine learning for IoT. So we are using four major domains. So we are using for monitoring, then we are using it for behavioral control, operational optimization, and self-healing and self-optimization. So these are the four broad major areas where the machine learning algorithms are applied to process the big data from IoT devices. So what is the role of monitoring process in machine learning means the smart objects monitor the environment where they operate. Data is processed to better understand the conditions of the operations. Those conditions can refer to external factors. So we will collect the data from the, say for example, if you are collecting the data from the temperature monitoring system, so we will collect the following data like temperature, humidity, and all those things. So those will be collected in speed and rainfall ratio, all those things. Those will be collected and that will be monitored regularly so that we can take future decisions. And if you take the behavioral of machine learning concept, so the monitoring commonly works in conjunction with the behavioral model. When a given set of parameters a target threshold, say it is called, we will say for example, if you take the AC, so we will set the AC in a particular temperature, say in 20 degrees Celsius. Once a particular 20 degrees Celsius is reached, the sensors will sense the temperature, then it will send the actuators to put the AC in sleep mode. So that is supervising the temperature, checking for the threshold value. Once the threshold value is reached, it will take action based on the behavior of the system. So that is here we are using supervised learning as well as unsupervised learning, machine learning concepts to create a behavioral control kind of IoT projects. And if you take the third type, operational optimization. So optimization means that we need to optimize the functionality of any system. So we will monitor the system, IoT, we will check the based on behavior, we will check for if some abnormal, then we need to optimize the system based on the behavior. So systems are called operations optimization systems. So behavioral control typically aims at taking corrective actions based on the threshold. So if a corrective action need to be taken based on the behavior, say again the temperature goes high, say we are setting the AC to 20 degrees Celsius. Once at 20 degrees Celsius, room temperature comes to 20 degrees Celsius, automatically the AC will go to sleep mode. Again, the temperature is 20 degrees Celsius or 20 degrees Celsius. Again, we make the AC to automatically switch on. So that is called corrective actions to be taken based on the behavior. For example, a water purification plant in a small city can implement a system to monitor the efficiency of the purification process based on which chemical is used. So, if you are using IoT device to monitor the purification process is going on well or not, so it will check for the chemical level in the water. If some chemical is increasing, then it will make an alarm system. According to that, it will take some corrective action. And the fourth type of machine learning algorithms used to implement the IoT are called self-healing, self-optimizing kind of projects. A fast developing aspect of deep learning is closely related with the self-optimizing technique. Machine learning based monitoring triggers chances in machine behavior and operations optimization. Say, for example, the machine learning can program to dynamically monitor and combine new parameters and automatically reduce the implement new optimizations. So here, the self-healing and self-optimization systems, it will check for the ongoing process of the system, and if something happened wrong, then already the what corrective action has to be taken, it will be already stored in the system, so it will automatically make the corrective action to be implemented, and it will give suggestion also, so that we can say, for example, if you are fixing an IoT device to monitor the functionality of a car. So if the car is not functioning properly, or if the if hair is reduced or some fuel level is going down, then it will make an alarm and it will a message or information so that we can take the corrective action. So here we are using the clustering algorithms, and K means deviations that result in pre-detection of new potential defects, allowing the system to self-heal. The system can be automatically order a piece of equipment that is detected as being close to a failure of the take corrective action to avoid the failure. Modify a machine's movement to avoid the weak link. So if something is wrong in the system functional, it will make the alarm, or it will take the corrective action, or it will order the spare parts, and it will give us the message so that we will take the corrective action. Those are the 4 learning techniques which are made applied in 4 IoT domains: monitoring systems, monitoring smart objects, behavioral control systems, operations optimization, and self-healing and self-optimizing systems. The fourth, the next subheading is called Big Data Analytics Tools and Technology. So, any doubts so far? Shall we continue with the next topic? Hello? Any doubt? Akash, any doubt? Any doubt? Are you there? Rista? Any doubt? Shall we continue? Yeah, the next topic is Big Data Analytics Tools and Technology. So for Big Data Analytics in IoT, we are using the following tools and the following technological aspects. So one of the major things called of many of the today's big data analytics components. It's mainly used for analytics, can consist of many different software pieces that together collect, store, manipulate, and analyze all different types of data. So the landscape of analyzing that big data using various concepts is very broad. So generally the industry looks the 4 V's to categorize the big data. So to choose any particular tool or analytics program, we are checking for the following 3 V factors: velocity of data, variety of the data, and volume of the data. Velocity of the data means how much data the system produces in a particular duration, and variety of data means what are the different types of data. This, whether it is only audio, image, audio data, or video data, or is only textual form of data. So based on the type of data which we are collecting from the system, we need to choose corresponding analytical tool, and volume of the data, whether the tool can accommodate the given data or not. So one of the basis, because whatever data we are collecting from IoT devices are stored in, and that should be segregated into a corresponding database. So the enterprise have used relational databases for storing structured data types for decades. So for a long time we were using the tables, relational database management tables, for enterprise resource planning operations, that will be stored in the form of rows and columns. And we started using relational database management systems that function with relational into a broad data storage category called data warehouses. Though there are a centerpiece of most data architectures, they are often used for long-term achieving and data queries that can be often make minutes or hours. So the processing and accessing segregating data takes very long time, depending upon the capability of the tool what you're using. For example, of this would be asking for all the items produced in the past that had particular specification. Depending upon the number of items in the database and the complexity of the question being asked, the response could be slow to return. So the applying some query the system and collecting the response from the system is very complicated depending upon the complexity of the system. Are you able to hear? Yeah, this massively parallel processing database shared nothing architecture shows you the diagrammatic representation of how the database is organized. So we have node 1, node 2, and node n. So we can have n. So the node 1 is having segment host, and segment each and every node is having segment host. Within the segment host, we have the sensors and motherboard and the other data storage components, and they are all connected with the cloud or through the internet, and that will be whatever data we are collecting is transferred to the master host and stationary master. So here we are processing the data. So the massively parallel processing shared nothing architecture of big data will look like this. So we'll have we can have a number of nodes. Each and every node will be having the database as well as other components, and whatever data we are collecting from the devices will be stored to the master node as well as the standby master. Any doubt? Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Here it's raining. That's what I'm asking. Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. The next topic is called, the first tool is called massively parallel processing databases. So it is one of the tool used in big data analytics, and the second one is called NoSQL database. The NoSQL was developed to support the high velocity and urgent data requirement of modern web applications that typically do require much repeated use. So the NoSQL is a class of database that support semi-structured and unstructured data. If your data is, we already discussed in the previous class, structured data and unstructured data and semi-structured data. So structured data will have its own schema. So we can store the data in a table form or in a hierarchical relationship like trees or graph form. Unstructured data will be having audio, video, and textual information. We cannot store the data in a particular template or in a schema. And semi-structured, like email messages, will have a partial structured data and partial unstructured data. But if you go for this NoSQL database, we can process both semi-structured and unstructured data. And NoSQL is not a specific database technology, rather it is an umbrella term that encompasses several different types of databases. So it is not a single concept, it's having a number of concepts. The various, it's combination of collection of tools, or it's having so many components. So we will call it as umbrella of NoSQL database. So the various components in this NoSQL database is document stores, key value stores, and wide column stores, and graph stores. So these different types of tools are used for storing variety of data. Say the document stores are mainly used for the type of data stores semi-structured data such as SQL, XML, and JSON kind of data. So if your data is in the form of document form, XML scripts or DHML script, we can go for this document store. And the second one is called key value store. The type of data stores associated arrays where a key is paired with the associated value. So if your data is in the form of array of data or array of databases. So in that case, say for example, if the data is in the similar form with collection of data. So in that case, we will call it as array of data or array of associated data. So those kind of value can be stored in key value stores, data stores. And the third type is called wide column stores. This type of data stores similar to key value store, but the formation of the value can vary from row to row, even in the same table. So the wide column stores are nothing but it is an advanced version of tables. So in advanced version of tables means that each table column can store different types of data. So that is called wide column stores. The fourth one is called graph stores. This type of data is organized based on the relationship between element graph stores and commonly used for social media and natural language processing kind of data. So the graph structure, we know very well, it's a relational database concept. So there will be some hierarchy among the data, or there will be some relationship between the data, what we are collecting. So if the data are related with each other through some hierarchy or through some relationship, in that case, we can go for graph stores. So these are the four components what we are using in NoSQL database. So it is a tool or it is a collection of associated tools. We'll call it as umbrella of NoSQL database. This can support for structured as well as semi-structured database. And these are the various components available. So based on the type of data what we are going to process, we will use the corresponding tool. So any doubt?
No, ma'am.
So the next concept is called Hadoop. So far we discussed two major big data analytics technology based on the velocity, variety, and volume. First one is called MPP databases. The second one is called NoSQL databases. So these are the types of databases or schemas what we are using along with the IoT data. So the next subheading is called Hadoop. Hadoop is the most recent into the data management market and most popular choice as the data repository and processing engine. So Hadoop was originally developed as a result of project at Google and Yahoo, and the original intent for Hadoop was to index millions of websites and quickly return search results for open source search engines. So we know very well we are using the Hadoop components for Hadoop framework. Mainly they started using it with Google and Yahoo because in Google Mail and Yahoo Mail, we have a vast amount of data, and the data has to be, and it is an open source software as well. So we will have a lot of data, and the data has to be processed based in the real time environment to get the market trend and other things. So they are using they are collecting the personal details and other categories of data to personalize the content. So this Hadoop is mainly used along with Google and Yahoo. Now it is available for cloud operations along with the IoT projects. So initially the project had two key elements: Hadoop distributed file system HDFS, and MapReduce. So this Hadoop is having two major elements called HDFS, called Hadoop Distributed File System, a system for storing data across multiple nodes. So it will collect the data from so many nodes, and all the data collected will be stored in a distributed file system. The second one is called MapReduce, a distributed processing engine that splits a large task into smaller ones. And that can be run in a parallel. Both the elements are still present in the current Hadoop distributions. So this Hadoop works in the distributed environment where the systems and nodes are placed in different locations, and it collects the data from different locations, and the data will be simplified so that it can be processed. So if you take the general architecture of our Hadoop, a distributed Hadoop cluster, so it will look like this. So we'll have the rack 1, rack 2, rack 3, up to rack n. So in each rack, what we are having means we'll have the switch, name node, and data nodes. And these racks will be connected with the distribution switch. So what is this switch, name node, and data nodes means? So what is the role of those name nodes, data nodes means? Hadoop, the name nodes are nothing but those are the critical pieces of data, adds, removes, and deletes and reads in on HDFS. They coordinate where the data is stored and maintain a map of where each block of data is stored and where it is replaced. So the name nodes are used as a label along with the HDFs, Hadoop distributed framework, and they store the data based on the location hierarchy, and it can be used for adding and deleting and moving the data. The second one is called data nodes. Those are the servers where the data is stored at the direction of the name node. It is common to have many name nodes in Hadoop cluster to store the data. So the data nodes are nothing but they are the servers where we will store the data in a centralized place, and it will have it's a vector component. Vector component in the sense we can store the value along with the direction. So it means it will take the numerical value along with the direction. It means where it is accessed, location, and other parameters. And the data blocks are distributed across several nodes and often replicated 3, 4, or more times across the redundancy. So the diagram shows you how the Hadoop distributed cluster is functioning. So the cluster is having 3 components: data nodes, name nodes, and distributed switch. So the name nodes are like labels. They will store the name of the data and the direction of the data. And the data nodes are stored in the clusters, and they can be used for accessing the data in future. So the diagram shows you how the relationship between the name nodes and data nodes and how data blocks are distributed across the cluster. So we in Hadoop, we are using the clusters. Clusters means a similar kind of data. So we'll take the same kind of data like arrays, and they will be grouped into a common cluster. So how the name nodes and data nodes in Hadoop are blocked and how they are classified as cluster means we'll have the rack 1, rack 2, and rack 3. So in each rack we have distribution 1, 2, 3 like that, and in each cluster we'll have the collection of data, and we'll have the HDFS, the Hadoop distributed framework. In each client we'll have 1, 2, 3 like client 1, 2, 3, and each the data what they are writing, what they are sharing will be written on the namespace and block management. So the name node will have the namespace and block management that will maintain the namespace and block management. So here the name node is associated with the block node. So any doubt? So we started with Hadoop. Hadoop is a framework where it is mainly used for Google and Yahoo for collecting the original data from the emails and other search engines, and to organize the data in an effective way they started using. Then it is then we started using it for IoT kind of projects along with the clouds. So if you take the Hadoop, we have Hadoop distributed file system, HDFS, and MapReduce. So this file system and MapReduce are the main two components of the Hadoop. And if you take the Hadoop cluster configuration, we'll have the name node, data nodes, and distributed switches. So the role of name nodes are to add, move, and delete the data from the HDFS, and data nodes are used as a server to store and access the data. So this diagram shows you the relationship between the name nodes and cluster nodes. So our next topic is called yarn. So any doubt so far? Shall we proceed? Any doubt? Risvita, any doubt?
No, ma'am. Ma'am, your screen is again not visible to us, ma'am.
Screen it not. Okay, I'll check once again. Are you able to see now?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, now? Are you able to see now?
No, ma'am.
Now?
No, ma'am.
Here it's heavily raining, so I will check it. Are you able to see the screen now?
Not yet.
Now?
No, ma'am.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We are able to hear you, but in between your voice is breaking. That's it.
Yeah, I will check. Again, I will share. Now?
Mm,
Now you check. Are
yes,
you able to see the screen now?
yeah, ma'am.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
How it's okay. So any doubt? Hadoop?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, we start with Hadoop and the two elements of Hadoop. Hadoop distributed file system and MapReduce. Now you're able to see the screen. So this is the distributed Hadoop cluster diagram. So it's having switch and rack switch, name node and data nodes. And the name nodes are used to are a critical piece in data, add, remove, and delete the data from the HDFS. And the data nodes are used as a server to store the data. And the data blocks are distributed across the several nodes and are often replicated to store the data. And this diagram shows you the relationship between the name nodes and the namespace. So are you able to see the screen? Are
Yes,
you able
ma'am.
to see? Yeah. So next our topic is called yarn. So it's nothing but yet another resource negotiator. So it is an version 2 version, second version of Hadoop. So it was designed to enhance the functionality of MapReduce. So here the MapReduce was responsible for batch data processing and job tracking. So previously it will process single data at a time. Now it can process batch data. And Yarn was developed to take over the reduced resource negotiation and task tracking, allowing MapReduce to be responsible only for data processing. So here, the development of the dedicated cluster resource scheduler, Hadoop was able to add additional data processing modules to its core feature set, including interactive SQL and other real-time processing system. So the batch processing can be enabled in the MapReduce. So you got the idea. So we discussed Hadoop. So it's mainly used for collecting the real-time data from the cloud or from the Yahoo or from the Gmail kind of social media. And it's used for storing, accessing, and replacing the data. The advanced version of Hadoop is called version 2.0 of Hadoop, called yet another resource negotiator operation. That component is added with the MapReduce of Hadoop. So in Hadoop, we had two major components now, HDFC and MapReduce. So the MapReduce is improved in the Yarn so that it can handle job tracking process as well as batch processing. So the next concept is called Hadoop system. We already, Hadoop is not a single component. It's having collection of component, or it's having so many versions, or we will call it as a framework. So here, as mentioned earlier, Hadoop plays an increasingly big role in the collection, storage, and processing of IoT data. Due to its highly scalable nature and its ability to work with the large volume of data, we can use it for any data streaming process as well as processing the real-time data in larger group. Many organizations have adopted Hadoop clusters for storage and processing of data and have looked for complementary software packages to add additional functionality to their distributed Hadoop clusters. And in Hadoop, we are using clustering concepts so we can add or delete unwanted things, and so that we can improvise the processing. Since the initial release of Hadoop was 2011, many projects have been developed to add incremental functionality to Hadoop to have collectively become known as Hadoop ecosystem. So what is Hadoop ecosystem means? Initially the Hadoop was released during 2011 along with to process the Yahoo and Gmail components. So we added so many additional components. We brought Yarn and other Hadoop 2.0 version. And then many of the softwares and many of the organizations started using Hadoop. So they added some additional components. So the incremental versions of Hadoop was coming. So that collection of all the Hadoop components, we will call it as Hadoop ecosystem. Say for example, if you take the iPhone, initially we had iPhone 1, 2, 3. So like that, Hadoop 6, Hadoop, like that we had iPhone 6, iPhone 7, iPhone 10, iPhone 11. So like that we are getting the versions. So all the iPhones are belongs to the same framework of iPhone. The same way we had operating system now, Windows 4.2, Windows XP, Vista, Windows 2000. So all belongs to the same group called Windows operating system. So we are getting versions of same software. So we'll call it as framework, or we will call it as the collection of ecosystem. So the Hadoop ecosystem is nothing but the combination of various Hadoop components along with the newer versions of the Hadoop software. So the framework, each of the individual projects is a unique piece of the overall data management solution. The following section describes several of those packages. As discussed, they are used to collect and process the data. So the next one is called Apache framework. So the Apache framework is also a framework. It means it's having its own boundary. Within the boundary, by adding and deleting the components and bringing the newer versions and improvements into the system, we are having the framework versions of the same software. So the first one is called Apache Kafka, and this one is called Apache Spark. Third one is called Apache Storm and Apache Flink. So these are the main components which are majorly used by IoT projects in Apache framework. So the main well-known used frameworks in Apache are Apache Kafka and Apache Spark and Apache Storm and Apache Flink. So what is Apache Kafka means? Apache, it is part of it's mainly used for processing real-time events such as those commonly generated by smart objects. It is having them into processing engine. So whatever data which is produced in real time from the sensors of various IoT devices can easily be processed by Apache Kafka. So the process of collecting data from sensor or log files and preparing it to be processed and analyzed is typically handled by messaging systems. So here we are using the subscribe and publisher subscribe messaging system. So publisher subscriber messaging system means say if you are having the subscription, so all the subscribed users or username and logins will get the newer versions of the same data. Say for example, if you are buying an iPhone, so whenever the new versions or when the operating system or the device drivers are upgraded, newer versions are coming, you will get a notification that the version is updated. You like to upgrade. So all the subscribed users will get the message so that they can upgrade the data based on the newer versions. So the message systems are designed to accept data from where the data is generated and deliver the data to the stream processing engines such as Spark Streaming or Storm. So the Apache Kafka is a distributed publisher system. It's built to be scalable and fast. So this the main advantage of this system is, so it can be used for real-time applications, and it works under publisher subscribing messaging system, so that all the subscribers will get the message whenever the new upgrades are coming, and it can process data in very large volume. So the diagram shows the architectural framework of Apache data flow model. So we have the producer. The producer is connected with the cluster. So within the cluster, we have a message broker 1, 2, 3 up to 4. And we have the Kafka nodes. All the nodes will be connected with the Kafka cluster. And the customers will get the producer and Kafka cluster messages, Spark streaming data as well as Storm data as well as Hadoop data. The customers will access, they can access all those kind of data. So the second one of Apache is called Apache Spark. And Apache Spark is an in-memory distributed data analytics platform designed to accelerate process in the Hadoop ecosystem. So here the memory is inbuilt one, and it can be work in distributed environment. The in-memory characteristics of Spark is what enables to run jobs very quickly. At each stage of the MapReduce operation, the data is read and written back to the disk. So it means the latency will be eliminated. The Spark, the processing of the data is moved to the high-speed memory, which has significant low latency. So this speeds the batch processing jobs and also allows for near real-time processing of events. So the Spark version of Apache can be used for distributed environment, as well as its latency time is very less compared to the Apache Kafka. And here we are using the high-speed memories so that the latency and waiting time overload dues can be eliminated. The third type is called Apache streaming. So the real-time processing is done by a component of the Apache Spark project called Spark Streaming. The Spark Streaming is an extension of Spark core that is responsible for taking live streaming data from the messaging system like Kafka and deliver it into smaller micro batches. So those micro batches are called D streams. So the these streams are the micro batches of the ongoing data Spark. The data Spark processing engine is able to operate on those smaller pieces of data, allowing rapid insights into the data and subsequent operations. Instant feedback capability, Spark is becoming an important component in many of the IoT deployments. So if you are using this Spark streaming concept in your project, you can get the instant feedback plus we can subdivide the data stream into micro batches so that the speed of the processing can be increased. Systems that control safety and security of personnel, time sensitive process in the manufacturing space, and infrastructure control in the traffic management all benefit from those real-time streaming capabilities. So this Spark streaming Apache can be used for any kind of infrastructure project as well as the manufacturing kind of projects that deal with the real-time data. Because the processing speed is very high, it can support for real-time operations as well as, and the processing can be done in the micro batches. The third type is called Apache Storm and Apache Flink. As per ecosystem, you will invisibly notice that different projects are of the same type, but only each project will be having some advanced version, or it will have some advanced features. So overlap with other projects. Say for example, if you take the operating Windows operating system 4, the operating the features, major components and the internal components are same. Only the newer version, the newer additional features will be added with each version. Say in the older version, it will support for Windows processing. And in the another, say if you take Windows XP is different from Windows 4 in the way that it will support for internet. You will have the internet keyboard as well as it will have internet. It will support for internet operations, and it will support for Windows 64-bit operations. But Windows 4 will not support for Windows 64. It will support only for Windows 32-bit version. So the same way, all the Apache softwares are of the same type, but each version will have its own additional feature. So for example, Apache Spark is often used for both distributed streaming analytics and batch processing. So the main advantage of a Spark is it can be used for distributed and batch processing operations. And the Storm and Apache Flink are other Hadoop ecosystem projects designed for distributed stream processing are commonly deployed for IoT use cases. So if we are using IoT use cases kind of projects, we can go for Flink or Storm. And Apache Storm can pull data from Kafka and process it in the near real-time fashion, and so on can Apache Flink. The Apache space is rapidly evolving, and projects will continue to lose popularity in the if they evolve. So the latest version of Apache is called Apache Space. It's mainly used for all real kind of operations as well as batch processing. So this is best suited for many of the projects. So any doubts so far? Any doubt? So we are discussing about Apache framework. We discussed what is Apache and what is a framework, and the Apache ecosystem. We discussed the three major versions of Apache called Apache Kafka, Apache Spark, Apache Storm, and Apache Flink. Any doubt? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yeah, we discussed three major types: Apache Kafka and the architectural diagram, Spark and advantage and disadvantage, then Spark streaming, then Apache Storm and Apache Flink. So next, we are entering into the next subheading called Lambda architecture. So querying both data in motion streaming and data in rest both requires combination of Hadoop ecosystem project. And Lambda architecture is currently being for the functionality. So here, what is the advantage of this Lambda architecture means is a data management system that consists of two layers for investigating data, both batch and streamed data, and one layer for providing the combined data. So this Lambda architecture works in layers. It's having two major layers. One layer is used for accessing the data, both data in the static data as well as dynamic data, or we can say the data stored in the database as well as the live streaming data. And we are using the second layer for providing the combined data. So it works in 2 layers. Data is taken from the message broker and processed by each layer in parallel. And the resulting data is delivered to the data store where additional processing or queries can be run. The figure. So here we will take the data from the data store or from the live stream. Then it will be processed by the message broker, and that will process the data in parallel way. Parallel processing also implemented here. Say, for example, if you take the schematic representation of this Lambda architecture, so collecting the data from the smart objects of IoT, and the data will be given to the here we have the stream layer as well as servicing layer. So in the stream layer, we have Spark Streaming, Storm, and Flink. So in the Lambda architecture itself, we are using Apache Spark Streaming concept, Storm, Apache Storm, and Apache Flink. And real-time views will be generated from the streaming data. Again, from the Flink, we are getting the merged view of the data, and both the data will be given to the servicing layer. So we have the stream layer and servicing layer, and the pre-compute views of the data will be generated by using the Hadoop, HDFS, and MapReduce. So here we have the batch layer, servicing layer, and streaming layer. So this is the Lambda architecture. So this Lambda architecture is combination of both Hadoop, Apache, and other extra additional features. You got the idea? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you take the Lambda architecture, it's an advanced version of Hadoop, Apache, and we have additional features. So each tool what we are using in big data analytics, he's having the advanced features along with the old traditional components. So if in the Lambda architecture, it is a layered architecture, and it can process both batch processing data as well as distributed data. It can process stream of live stream data as well as stored data from the database. So to process the data from live stream, we are using Apache Spark Streaming, and to process Storm and Flink are used for processing the data from the cloud. From the Spark Stream, we are collecting the real-time views of the data, and from the Flink, we are collecting the merged view of the data. So this layer is called streaming layer, where the data is streamed and collected. In the servicing layer, we are collecting the required data, segregating the data as required one and useful one and useless one. And we are, it means we are processing the data. Once the data is processed, that is given to the servicing layer. The servicing layer gives the data to the Hadoop HDFS, Hadoop distributed file system, and MapReduce components are used to create the pre-compressed views of the data as well as to merge the data what we collected from Hadoop. So if you take the stream layer, this layer is responsible for real-life real-time processing of events. Technologies such as Spark Streaming, Storm, and Flink are used to quickly
Hello,
ingest,
ma'am.
process, and analyze the data in the.
Hello?
Yes. Yeah.
Ma'am,
Yes.
can you just give me an example of Lambda architecture in like real life example? Can you give me that so that I can relate it?
Yeah. So if you take the Lambda architecture, say for example, if you are using weather forecasting system. So in the weather forecasting system, the system will collect the data from the real time environment. The sensors will sense the data, and the data will be given to the process, or it will be sent to the processes. So here, if you are collecting the data in a continuous manner, say we are measuring only temperature. In that case, we need only the static data. We will collect, we will measure the time, we will measure the temperature. So that can be a static, that is fixed one. But it will also vary according to if the time increases. Usually we will measure the temperature, morning 9 o'clock, what is the temperature, 10 o'clock, what is the temperature, like that. In time intervals, we use to measure the temperature. But if you are the system, if you are collecting the rainfall, so rainfall, we need to collect the rainfall for a duration of time, when the rain started and when the rain ends. So it is a live collection of data, and we need to cumulate the data. So we need to go for aggregation. So in that case, we need the live streaming. So if you take the Lambda, if you go for this Lambda architecture, so in that case, So we need all the components of the in the weather monitoring system, it's weather forecast system itself. If you are implemented using Lambda architecture, we can collect the live stream data as well as the stored data also, and the required information will be segregated, and the same data will be given to the. So whatever data we are collecting from the object will be given to Apache Spark streaming, as well as the same sensor data is given to Hadoop HDFS as well as MapReduce. So the role of Hadoop distributed file system is, so it will collect the data from various, from the same location. We may place the temperature monitoring system, forecasting system in 2-3 different places. Say if you are placing an system in Bangalore, not in a one particular place, in the same area itself, say in Jayanagar itself, in 3-4 places, we'll place the instrument, so that we'll come to one aggregated we'll come to an aggregation. So we'll find out the average. So from one place itself, we cannot say the rainfall is this much. So we need to collect the data from more than one node or more than one place in the same area. So whatever data we are collecting from the smart object sensor will be given to Hadoop distributed file system that will segregate the data, and that will be given to the MapReduce that will come out with the pre-campus of the data. And the same data, sensor data, will be given to the Apache Spark streaming. So if the data is in the continuous form, so the Spark streaming will create the real-time view of the data. Say if it is rainfall, it will do the real-time view. And the same data will be given to the Storm as well as Flink also. In a Spark, we have some disadvantages, but if you go for Storm and Flink, it can do it in batch processing, and it can do for the speed be high. So we saw the advantages and disadvantages. All three. So here the Apache will do the get the real-time view of the data. So both the data will be given and merged together to get the servicing layer. So here, based on this, here we will come to a conclusion. So in any project where we need both streaming of real-time streaming of data and high-speed processing, and if it is a distributed work, so we need all the components. Any doubt?
No, ma'am.
So the next one is what is the advantage and major advantage and disadvantage of this Lambda architecture means. So it is robust system for collecting and processing the massive amount of data, and the flexibility of being able to analyze the data is for different rates. So it can accept a large amount of data, and we can process it. Analysis can be done in different rate. So there is one disadvantage of this architecture is, due to the processing and storage requirements of many of those pieces, the vast majority of those deployments are either in data centers or in the cloud, because the Lambda architecture can process very vast amount of data, and the data has to be stored in some place. If you want to store very large data, that too streaming of data, we need a very large space to store the data. So that much amount of continuous data and data streaming, video streaming cannot be stored in any normal database or any primary servers or server. So we will go for cloud only. So the cloud is the best option for storing the data what we are collecting from Lambda kind of architecture. So the cloud limit to respond rapidly enough to the processing system, or milliseconds or seconds. If you store data in the cloud, accessing and processing of data takes some time, so the latency will be introduced in the Lambda architecture. When this is the case, the distributed edge processing architecture may be needed to augment the central data in central infrastructure. So storing the a large amount of data in cloud, accessing the data and processing the data and getting the result takes some time. So the latency factor is introduced go for cloud storage. So that is the main disadvantage of Lambda architecture. In the Lambda architecture, so far we started with Apache architect framework, then we discussed Hadoop framework, Then we discussed the combination of both called Lambda architecture, the advantage and the architectural description. So the next subheading is called edge